Welcome to Loco Gringo, Mexico, where we can take you beyond the usual on your vacation. Each week we talk with amazing locals who know the Riviera Maya and Yucatan like only locals can. Get real tips to real places, insights on the local scene, culture, and cuisine from a local's perspective. So pour yourself a margarita, mezcal, or tequila, grab yourself a comfy chair, and let's get the show going.
Buenas tardes, everybody. Welcome to Loco Gringo, Mexico. My name is Kerra Bolton. I'm your host. I'm really glad you could tune in today. Well, we just meet some amazing people here on the show, and today we're talking to a journalist who is a recipient of the New York Times Award for Outstanding Journalism. She's been in the newspaper business, TV business, radio. She's also been the Director of Communications for the state of North Carolina's Democratic Party, and now she is a resident here in the Riviera Maya. Kerra Bolton lives here in the Akumal area. She still continues with her writing, and she's going to share with us her journey from the States to Mexico, which she is passionate about, and some of her recommendations for all of you visiting the area. This episode is brought to you by Playa. You know, lots of people ask us for information and help when it comes to real estate, whether they're looking for retirement, an investment property, or maybe they're looking to relocate to the area. And we refer them over to our friends at Playa. The folks at Playa we've known for years, and they'll make sure that you, the buyer, are fully protected and informed when it comes to buying real estate. So if you're looking to buy a piece of paradise, check out our friends at buyplaya.com. Hey, Kerra. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great, Kay. How are you? It's so great to talk to you.
I know. I'm really glad that you had time and of your schedule to be able to sit down and be a guest on the show. It's a great opportunity for us, so thanks so much.
You're welcome. You were one of the first people that I heard about before I moved to Akumal. And actually, you were kind of responsible for me moving here. So
no way.
Yeah. So my friend Pamela Slim, who helps women and entrepreneurs develop their message and develop their brand and really focus in on who they are, hosted a retreat in May 2016, I think it was, at one of the beautiful houses. I think it was Bellamar on Half Moon Bay. And I believe she worked through you, and she said, gosh, you know, my friend Kay Walton through Loco Gringo helped us put it all together, and we had this amazing experience. And I was like, I want to move to this magical place. So I don't blame you, but you definitely be godmother before I moved here.
Well, that's great. You know, it's funny because I wasn't sure your connection with Pam. And now you tell me, and Pam's been coming down to the Akumal area for tons of years, and I went to one of her workshops up in Phoenix, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and then we realized it was what a really small world it was.
Yeah.
So Kerra, share with everybody who's listening is where are you from, and what inspired you to come down here aside from talking to Pam and being in part of her workshop?
Sure. I'm originally from New Jersey, is where I grew up in South Jersey, in this little place called Deptford, which is across the river from Philadelphia. And I went to school in Maryland. I went to a women's college in Maryland. Now it's co-ed, and I'm so bummed. But it was a women's college when I went, and it was right outside of Washington, D.C., in a little town called Frederick, Maryland. And I decided that I wanted to be a journalist. And I'd gotten my first job basically as a secretary in the photo department of National Geographic magazine, which was crazy. It was kind of like Mad Men, these big alpha males running around, and they had just gotten back from safari, and they're all rugged. And it was right around the time of the Bridges of Madison County movie. Mm-hmm. And so I would get requests from people who wanted to meet the Clint Eastwood character. And it's like, well, that's a composite of like 10 different photographers, and worked there for a while and decided that what I needed to do is be in the field as a journalist. And I got a job at a really tiny newspaper in the mountains of Western North Carolina. I think our circulation was 18,000. And I moved from the Washington, D.C. area with my then husband to this little town called Hendersonville in North Carolina, and I started my career as a journalist. And in 2000, I really got to blossom. I had two great experiences. One was I came to Mexico for the first time, and I did a newspaper series on the impact of U.S. immigration on Mexican towns and cities. And for that, I won the New York Times Award for Outstanding Journalism. And then also in 2000, I covered a congressional race, it had national spotlight, and I'm this like itty bitty reporter from this itty bitty paper competing with the big boys, and I scooped them a couple times. It was awesome. And so the neighboring newspaper in Asheville, North Carolina, which some of your listeners may be familiar with, instead of competing with me, hired me, and they hired me to be their state government bureau chief in Raleigh. And I lived in Raleigh, and this is where I moved from Raleigh to Mexico. But in Raleigh, I was a newspaper columnist, a political columnist, and political journalist covering state politics and government. And
wow.
I was on the John Edwards campaign, so that infamous campaign that literally blew up. I was on the bus for that. And then the Democratic Party of North Carolina asked if I would join them as their spokesperson. So in 2007, I became the spokesperson for the North Carolina Democratic Party. I was their director of communications, outreach, and this sounds so dirty, oppositional research. So I won't share my secrets, but it was quite interesting. And the best part about that was that I was on the ground floor of the Obama campaign. Now, this isn't about politics, but it really, every generation, we get a transformational political candidate. And for this generation, I would say it would be Barack Obama. And so to be able to work on his campaign as his communications director in North Carolina, working with rural communities, working on healthcare issues was just such a big thing for me. So I did that I worked in the North Carolina Democratic Party for a couple of years, then went out on my own and became a legislative consultant, writing policy briefs about healthcare and education and guiding education nonprofits. And I did that for about 3 years. And then we're getting to Mexico. So then in 2015, I had my eat, pray, love moment where I had just broken up with this guy that I was dating, and I started to cry, and he kept talking because, that's what men do. They talk so they hope you'll shut up. And I said, "Are you talking so that you hope I shut up?" And he's like, "No, I'm just sad to see you cry." And I said, "Well, I'm not crying about you. I'm crying because I have to break up with North Carolina and I need to go follow my dream." And I decided that I was going to move to Mexico. And I went to the workshop in Akumal that Pam Slim hosted, and decided I wanted to move here. So that is a very long answer to your question, but there you go.
Well, I have to say my head is spinning hearing all of your accomplishments and accolades. To go, then I guess the question is what is your dream? Because I'm going, how does this professional journalist come to Turtletown and or pick anywhere, really? It's just to be able to give up that high intensity, very, go type world of journalism, at least from as I would envision it, to coming down to anywhere in the tropics, especially here in Mexico, where life's a lot slower. We don't have career ladders. So how does all of this come together in your dream and all?
Well, I'm still working on it, but I did that high-powered career thing, and it was extremely rewarding, and I'm so glad that I had that experience. But we all get to this point in our lives where it's time to do a new thing, and I wanted to slow it completely down. I wanted to get back to who I was before I was that thing. And who I am essentially is a writer and a photographer and someone who's interested in art and nature and food. Oh my God, I love food. And I'm interested in the warm, beautiful weather here and the beaches, the turquoise waters. I mean, who would not want to live here? So
True.
I decided to make my life independent enough so that I could live here.
Wow, that's beautiful. Now, do you still do you balance? Do you still do work or writing for people in the States?
I do. It's on a select basis. Now I'm really focused on building my new business, which helps individuals, communities, and organizations build and sustain their activism, as well as getting into food writing and more of the creative things that I really enjoy.
Amazing. Wow. Well, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Now, let me ask you, and I know we didn't really discuss this when we were talking about doing this interview. Is what were some of the challenges? What were some of the rough parts of the road as you've moved to Mexico? Were there any hurdles or really moments, challenges that you had that made you go, ah, man, not as easy as I thought it would be, or maybe I made the wrong decision?
Yes, and all the time. Well, so here's the sort of sad part about the story. My story is that 2 weeks before I moved to Mexico, my mother passed away. And this was sort of the cap of years of immediate family passing away. So I lost my father, my grandfather, my stepdad, my uncle. I'm an only child. I'm not married. I don't have children. So when that happened, I felt completely alone. But when my mother's death, I felt completely alone. And then I was sort of running away from my life in the States and running to Mexico. And in the beginning, I was basically exchanging one set of problems for another. But then now these problems speak Spanish. My problems are bilingual. So there were lots of challenges. And I think the first is asking for help, because I consider myself to be an independent person. And I don't think you can live here without community. And we're so lucky in the Riviera Maya to have a community of people, be they expats, be they people who live here, who have gone through this journey before, and they know what I'm going through. And so when I am pitching a fit because my electric bill is high, they're able to say, oh no, this is what you do to make sure that next time you're not surprised, or they can walk me through the process. So that's been the biggest change, is like asking for help and community here.
And it's a great community. I mean, people up and down the coast are very, very, very warm and welcoming. No matter where you go, and I think it's whether you're moving here or you're coming to visit the area.
Yeah.
It's kind of an open arms type situation, and especially because we all love this area, and it's just so easy to welcome people and say, "Come and see."
Yes, and so they've been, they're family. I mean, it's like I have my Mexican family, and then I have my sort of chosen family in the States.
That's really cool. Now, do you go back to the States often, or are you really entrenched here where you don't get a chance to go back up home?
I find myself going about every 3 months, but I really wanted to be entrenched here, but I just can't let go of the States. I can't quit you, United States.
No, it can be hard. It can be hard. Absolutely. Now, I want it was great that you come down on the workshop with Pam Slim, that you got exposed to Akumal, but you have a lot of experience traveling, correct?
Yes.
So why not a place like, I know I saw San Miguel Allende that you've been to, and love San Miguel. It's a beautiful city in Mexico. What was it, just the Caribbean, or what was it about the Riviera Maya that attracted you, as opposed to going to San Miguel Allende or maybe San Cristobal de las Casas or somewhere else in the country?
It was definitely the Caribbean. And because the vibe is pretty laid back and relaxed here, I don't feel the need to live up to anything. I can just be myself. And there's plenty of things to do if you want to go, if you want to go to a cenote, if you want to lay on the beach, if you want to do a hike, if you want to look at chocolate. There's so many things to do here that it's fantastic. And not saying that there aren't in other places in Mexico. It's just that I like doing those things here, and it's warm.
I totally get that. I totally get it. Yeah, the warm weather is always very nice, especially as the winter winds are starting to come down from the north across the U.S. and Canada. Now, when you think about the Riviera Maya, and it's, we talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people we talk to have been in the area for, some of them, 20 some years. Since you have, you're a little bit newer to the area and that, what are some of the things that you would say would be good recommendations in your experience on places that people can visit if they're coming to the area where they're going to find that authentic experience? I mean, where have you gone where you've really felt like there's authenticity here, it's genuine?
Wow, that is a good question, because it tends to be around food for me. I'm such a foodie, so I like to explore places, and it's horrible to say I'm not a big Mexican food fan, and I'm working on changing. I know it's horrible. I know the best Thai places in Mexico, but so the genuine places are like the family-owned restaurants that are owned by, a couple like we know, Jen and Bart Smith and Akumal, who have Turtle Bay Cafe, and I like some of the larger chains, like Mezzanine has a really nice, and Tulum has a really nice atmosphere where you can just kind of look at the beach. So it's not sort of authentic in the sense of this is traditional Mexico, but I think it's in terms of where Mexico is going in the future. I think Mexico is much more global and international than people think it is. And the Riviera Maya has that advantage because there are lots of tourists who come through the area. So it's more than tacos and tequila, as I like to say. It really is international. It really does have that flavor that's different, and it's really changing.
And I know we have coming up what by the time this airs, it will have coming on our first annual Tulum Food, Spirits, and Wine Festival coming up, which is really exciting. And it's as a foodie, I'm sure you're excited to see festivals like this and others that are really emphasizing the cuisine of Mexico or culinary, and really emphasizing, local produce, local products and things, and creating wonderful menus based on what we have here in the area, as opposed to importing everything, but really embracing all the resources that we have and all the flavors that we have. It makes for a great meal for sure.
Yes, and I'm excited about learning, especially at the Tulum Food, Wine, and Spirits Festival, about they're focusing on the artisanal products, that local products in the Yucatan Peninsula, and so I'm interested in seeing how they define artisanal in terms of foods, in terms of fruit and bread and cheese and meat, what that looks like for them, and I think there will be different types of mole that will be made. So I'm really super interested in that, and I discover places through food, so it's going to take me a little while longer to be able to say, oh, that to me is authentic Mexico.
Now, do you have any little favorite restaurants? I mean, we've got, of course, Turtle Bay is always a great one. Do you have any little gems, maybe down in Tulum or Playa, that you go, oh man, if I'm going down that way, I want to hit that spot?
There is in Tulum, I'm sorry, not Tulum, in Playa, there is a restaurant, I think it's called Asiana, which is attached to the Royal Tulum Resort. And you can eat there even if you're not a guest there. And they have really great, if you like Asian food, whether a bit of Chinese, a little Thai, They have great food there, and it's not tourist prices, so it's what the locals would pay, and it's air conditioned, so because it gets hot.
That's nice.
And then you can take a stroll down to the beach. So sometimes after I eat, I just walk down to the beach and just kind of look at the water and look at people playing volleyball. In Tulum, on the mangrove side, I cannot pronounce the name. I think is it Cenote? It's like this little garden restaurant. I think it's like a sister restaurant of Heartwood, the really famous one.
I want to say it's Senatole, but I'm not sure if even I'm pronouncing that right either. I know which one you're talking about. We'll put it in the show notes so everybody can look it up.
Great. That's a wonderful gem. I love their pork spare ribs. Oh my gosh, and they have this apple and sweet potato compote that they serve it with. And then they have these cocktails, that are named after jazz singers. And my favorite is the Ella Fitzgerald because it's got a little bit of, I think it's jalapeno in it. It's got a little bump to it, and it's so good. But you do have to remember to spray yourself with insect repellent or carry around those patches of those wipes with the insect repellent on it, because there are quite a lot of mosquitoes around dinner time. But they don't bother you. You can still eat, but you might, so that's my little secret place in Tulum.
Well, a few Ella Fitzgeralds, and you really are not really concerned about the mosquitoes anyways.
You're not feeling that thing. Both you and the mosquitoes are drunk, so.
What I found to be really interesting, at least over this current year, in terms of the food and the diversity, is pork belly. I have seen that on a lot of menus, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners are going, wait a minute, I'm looking for fish tacos and shrimp tacos. Well, there's always plenty, but it's really a surprise to see some of the innovative things they're doing with pork belly, and absolutely delicious.
Yes, you're so right about that. And I think we get spoiled with the seafood because we're here so much. So delicacies like fish tacos, mahi-mahi, octopus, it just kind of seems like, oh yeah, But pork belly, we get so excited because that's new for us.
Yeah, that's true. Everything's all relative.
Yes.
What have been some of the things that you have found being relatively new to the area that you really enjoy doing when you're not working or anything? What and not eating?
Oh, that's hard.
Well, you got to burn off those pork belly calories. But what are some of the activities and things or things that you do that you've really taken a shining to being here now?
I really love to go to the ruins. So far, I've been to Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. And I've been to Koba and I've been to Tulum. But I plan, as the weather cools down, to make some trips to other ruins. And the Loco Gringo website is actually my guide, because you guys have a great guide to the different ruins in the area, and not just the typical ones that we think of, but that stretch all the way. It has helpful information about where to stay nearby, where to eat, of course, because I like that. So I'm kind of using that as your guide, as the Loco Gringo guide, as my checklist of which Mayan ruins to go see. So that's kind of my secret, I guess, hobby in between everything else.
Oh, beautiful. And what I'll send you is we have several ebooks that we've published with some guides. So if you don't have those, I'll send you a copy. And for our listeners, if you want, we have 3 different adventure guides to 3 different ruin sites, and they can be found on Amazon.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
But I will send them to you today after we finish the call.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, and any tips, just, feel free to ask any one of us. We're more than happy to go here. And one ruin site, which is close by, and it is one of my favorites, and I think it should be a must-do, is the ruins of Muil, which is south of the Tulum Pueblo. And you can take the Mayan Canal tour as well. There's a big lagoon there, Lagoon Chunyasche, and you can go down, and there's a little ruins in the middle of the mangrove. Really cool. But Muil's definite. Put on your list. It's close by. You can do it someday easily, and and it doesn't take all day to do it. It's in the jungle. It's shady, so you don't have to go at the crack of dawn. You can go anytime and it's comfortable. And there's not a lot of people there, so that's great.
Perfect.
I think the tour buses. I don't know if many tour buses have found it yet, so definitely got to check it out.
Thank you. That's a great tip.
Now, do you scuba diving, snorkeling? Anyone?
No, I don't swim. So like I'll put my feet in the water. I love looking at the water, and that's it.
Well, that's okay. That's wonderful. You do that, but I think I even mentioned to you, talk to Paulina, who works with us, as she didn't swim either, and we got her on scuba.
Oh, that's fantastic.
She did great. So, what's your passion that's going to hold you here? I mean, have you found enough to keep you busy? And I mean, do you think that the novelty will eventually wear off, or you just think, no, I'm really going to put down roots here and stay for a while? Do you have anything that's going to hold you?
I think this is my home because there is so much to discover, and I'm not rushing to try to do everything at once. So just as if when you were asking me questions about what I like to do and what places are authentic, and those questions, my answers were undefined because I still have so much to discover. So I think that that idea of possibility and to discover the entire Riviera, the Riviera Maya, not just my 3 little places I like to go, I think that should be enough to keep me for a while. And then we've got this whole country of Mexico. Yes, I've been to San Miguel and Cuernavaca, but I've never been to Oaxaca, and I've never been to Chiapas. So there's just so much here to go and explore. And I think that will hold me for a long while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, after 25 years, I don't think I haven't gotten much beyond the Yucatan Peninsula, and except for an occasional trip over to Palenque or something. But yeah, there is definitely a lot to explore, and I think what's really nice is that we have a lot of listeners who have been coming down to the area for lots of years, and like anywhere, time has changed, but it's an evolution, and there's I don't know, for me there's still a magic in things. It's just an evolution. I mean, I was just talking with someone yesterday, and we're talking about Tulum, and it doesn't have the vibe it did in 1970, but then again, where in the world has the vibe of what it was in 1970?
Exactly.
And it has still a really great vibe, and I think it's a really exciting time to be here because there's a lot of new faces coming, people such as yourself coming down, and the energy is good. There's a lot of creativity, and a lot of people are thinking outside the box in how to live their life and how to make a living doing what they love.
Yes. And I'm glad that you mentioned the creativity, because one of the first things that I got to do when I got here was through a yoga class. I met Kim Schultz, who runs the Akumal International Artist Residency. And I got to show my photographs as part of the residency. And there is a desire, and I'm hoping that it will spring into a movement to have a more active arts community here and what that might look like. I'd like to be able to participate more in that, and I'd like to be able to build that in some way.
Oh, that's beautiful. That would be awesome. And I'd love to see your photographs sometime, some of
Sure.
your work.
Thank you. I'm on Instagram, so that's a lot of where I show my work.
Well, we'll make sure that everybody gets your Instagram account on today's show notes, and then everybody will all follow you and keep up with your photographic adventures.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice to anybody, for people who are coming down to the area? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes. Stay fluid, because I made plans. I had checklists. I had spreadsheets. I knew exactly what life was going to be like, and it just flew out the door. So you have to stay fluid, or else it will just not work out for you. You have to come to Mexico, whether you're coming on vacation or you're coming to live, or even if you're returning part-time, is to come with a spirit of openness. because that will ensure that your experience, even if you have a terrible day, it'll still be beautiful. It'll still be wonderful. There'll still be lessons to learn.
Oh, it's excellent advice. Now, how can if people want to reach out to you? And I will say, I'm gonna do some promotion for you. Is that Kerra is a writer. She's one of our contributors on Loco Gringo. So look for her blog posts. She's out there and she's out canvassing the coast and finding some especially great restaurants for us and everything. So you can keep up with all of Kerra's writing on our website. But where else can people reach out to you?
So my email is Kerra, or actually my website is kerrabolton.com, which is Kerra, B as in boy, O-L-T as in Tom, O-N as in Nancy.com. And that's where you find a lot of my activism work. So if you're interested about how to drive and spark change, you can go there. You can sign up for my newsletter. I'm also starting a new food blog called Love in the Time of Collards. And the URL for that one is lovecollards.com. So that's where you can find a lot of my food stories, restaurant reviews. It's called, that section of my blog site is called Restaurants I Date, because I don't date men, I date restaurants. They're much more reliable. So I date restaurants. And then I have my creative writing you can also find on medium.com under Kerra Bolton. So you'll see some essays, travel essays, and opinion pieces that I've written.
Awesome. Well, I hope that you would come back on the show and talk about the restaurants that you date.
Yes, I would love to. I'm serious. I date these restaurants. Like, I know who the owners are. I know all the wait staff. Like, I mean, it's serious. Like, it's totally serious. My most committed relationship is to restaurants.
Okay, so do you, I'm going to ask this. This is kind of out of left field. Do you have a couple restaurants in your sights that you're dying to go and try and haven't had a chance yet?
Yes, I want to go because we did the Thanksgiving story, which I can't wait, the newsletter that comes out, and I'm really curious about Plank's dinner menu. I went there for brunch twice, and once was on a date, and that's why I date restaurants instead of people. And then in Previst, I think, which is their sister place, I'm curious about those two in particular, and I'm waiting to see what other kind of restaurants I find. So I know Loco Gringo has a restaurant guide, so maybe I'll go through that as well.
Yep, and let me know if you need some recommendations. I mean, some of the standard ones, places like there's always Heartwood and El Pez and some of those ones that are really common, but there's some off the wall places. Actually, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll find the name and I'll put it in today's show notes. There is a little Argentinian restaurant in Aldea Zama. That you can't, you got to drive down the road and watch for maybe a little sign, but nobody's there. Great food, great prices, great wine. I wish I could, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I'll get you that. And that's one of those off the beaten path type places, but I'll get that information so that you and all our listeners can check it out.
So cool. Thank you.
So Kerra, thanks so much. And I'm serious. Keep, if you get enough, you get a restaurant or something, a date you want to talk about.
Okay.
We'll jump in and do a show about restaurants that you date.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Kay.
Thank you.
Well, are you inspired now to move down here? Do you want to move down here and have a little place of your own? Well, then you need to talk to our friends at Buy Playa. They have a friendly and knowledgeable international staff. They speak lots of languages, and they are known as being a buyer's agent. Well, what does that mean? That means they are only going to show you and sell you properties they know that have escrituras. An escritura is a title. And it's part of their due diligence to make sure the title is clear, there's no liens, and that the person who's selling the property is actually the owner. Buy Playa works with lawyers that specialize in fideicomisos, which is a Mexican trust. You may have heard of it already before. And they can address things such as capital gains problems immediately and right up front.
so that you have no surprises along the way to closing. So contact our friends at Buy Playa at buyplaya.com. Thanks for tuning in today, everybody. Hope you tune in again next week. But before you take off, just a reminder, today's show notes can be found at locogringo.com/podcast. We'll have contact information and links over to Kerra's info. And also, you can find her writing. She's a regular contributor of ours here at Loco Gringo on our blog.
Thanks for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe. For links, show notes, and more information, head on over to locogringo.com or give us a call toll-free at 800-478-0081.
Porque se tragó la luna, estaba enferma la rana. Su madre soba que soba, dedos de pluma la panza. Pensó ranita que luna era una toronja blanca. Y aunque la luna es de leche, la leche estaba cortada. Croa, croa, dedos de pluma. Croa, croa, dedos de agua. Croa,